Brad Thorn, 22 seasons of rugby, wins 4 premierships with the Broncos, State of Origin, Australia, makes it to the All Blacks, wins the World Cup. This guy is associated with the term discipline and hard work. And today we talk about that, how he went from being a lazy teenager to being one of the most disciplined players of all time. We talk a lot about his relationship with God and how it transformed who he is. And there's a little surprise at the end, which is why I've got this jumper on. Brad Thorn, welcome to the Wise Fools podcast.
Thanks for having me, mate. Yeah, very happy to be here with you.
So take me back for a moment. You're just a few years into the NRL. You're at the top. You've made Origin for Queensland. We'll forgive you for that. You played for the Broncos. You've got the big contract. You're famous. You can walk into the pub and skip the line, and you're Brad Thorn. You have respect. You know, you have women probably chasing after you, and you know, according to the world and most men, you've won the game of life at that point. All the metrics say you're winning, and yet you say that you felt empty. Why wasn't it enough?
That's what the question I was asking myself, basically. Yeah, why am I not happy? Because as a 13-year-old, in my teenage years, dreaming of being a professional footballer, I was at the top of the mountain. I had all the stuff that you want to have, and the more stuff I had, it's like I just wanted more. There's no satisfaction, and it was just an interesting space where I've fallen a long way, like internally, just with what came with that life. Train hard, play hard, party hard. I was boozing and womanizing and carrying on. A young man, it's not natural in life. Usually, it's a 20, 30-year build in business or whatever you're doing to get to, a really strong space, and you get the stuff thrown at you at 19, 20, 21, 22, so it's not a natural sort of thing to get that much that early. Myself, like many others, probably didn't handle it that well. So I had everything, and I was probably in the quiet moments in my mind, in the morning or different times. I felt a lack of fulfillment, and of real purpose. I had purpose of trying to win, trying to make rep teams and stuff. I just meant in life, just a lack of overall purpose. And with the way I was living, there was a sadness as well. It wasn't, like I said, I felt I'd fallen a fair way. Now, the measure that I went off was memories where things were good. When I say good, I mean good inside. Being brought up in New Zealand to the age of 9, we were part of a church. I just loved God, loved learning about Jesus. I was just a little kid, Sunday school, that sort of stuff. Jonah and the whale and David and Goliath, all those great stories, and but Jesus.
You probably have DNA from Goliath somewhere.
Yeah, who knows? You wouldn't know, but and then coming to Australia, we'd ceased going to church for about 7 years. Just didn't feel comfortable where we'd gone, and fortunately, Mum and Dad didn't persevere, and luckily, a neighbour, God, we forgot about God. He didn't forget about us, and a neighbour down the road moved in and asked my mum and dad would they want to come to church, and that got Mum and Dad back, which went along. And my brother, through a friend, ended up committing his life to the Lord as well. So, even though I was going along to church and that, I believed in God and all this sort of stuff, still just had my distance because I was just living my life. I had big plans. I got stuff I wanted to do, and I was just living my life my way, you know. So yeah, and with all that, as I said, you fast forward to where you asked me about where I was at. I had everything, and for me, it was like I often think like pictures in my head. It was like a math equation. Math equation didn't add up. I've got all this stuff. Why am I not happy? Why am I not? You know, and that's
Because
when I really,
that's what we're told that, is the goal in life, right? For every man, those three sort of like, fame, money, women, respect. That's a big one, really, as well.
yeah, yeah. So it's, um, yeah, I was, like I said, in the quiet of my mind when I had a little think about things. I was confused and, um, yeah, like I said, that's when I started to really think about God in my life. Um, it came to a point where I went on a tour to Great Britain, and I made the Australian side. My front row partner was a guy called Jason Stevens, who's a Christian, and we became mates there. We were dominant in that series. Um, Me and him playing wise, but also we won that series 2 games to 1. It was awesome over there. But yeah, that's um, Jason was a really good guy. He was well liked by the guys in the team, but he'd get a bit of banter around his faith, and that didn't seem to bother him. Um, he's a guy I respected, and yeah, basically came to me and him sitting after lunch one day, and him just saying to me, How do I see things around faith?" And I said to him, I like Christians; they're nice people. One day when I'm a nice person, I'll be a Christian too. But at the moment, I'm a loose cannon. I don't want to be a hypocrite. You know, like I was genuine. I was up front. I'm not a necessarily a great guy. You know, and I said, when I change, then I'll be a Christian. And he said, Jesus changes you, mate. You don't change you. Jesus changes you. You need Jesus in your heart. And that's probably something I'd heard since a little kid. Going to church in New Zealand, like I said, sitting at church with my mum and dad. Back in Australia, um, there's a saying that I like: the teacher will arrive when the student is ready to learn. And I think I was ready to learn. I had this. I went back for a funeral to New Zealand when I was 13. It was my granddad's funeral, and I had no relations in Australia. They're all back in New Zealand. And we sat around in the evening after the funeral and stuff. And my auntie asked me, "What do you want to do when you grow up, Brad?" And I said, "I want to be a professional footballer. I want to have you know, house, car, wealth, famous." Like you said, the girls want to ask order that. That would have been my picture. And I almost felt like God said, "Okay, here it is. Here's all your stuff that you want. Let's see if, s- you know, see if you're happy." Because that
Mm.
was the dream. And without him. And um, so, yeah, I got all that $1 million contract, signed it at 21 years old, 3-year $1 million. Had a car in my driveway with my name on it. Like you said, all that stuff before Origin, playing for Australia, people patting you on the back, all this sort of stuff. And yeah, Jason says Jesus changes you. You need to repent for the wrongs you've done, the sins. I knew this. I'd heard this stuff before,
Mm.
but it was hitting the home, and you need to ask Jesus into your life. And so yeah, I took that on board. I said, "Thanks, mate." You know, and I went after the tour. Went back to Australia to the off season, I took on board what Jason said, and so I went back with an attitude of, I still went back with my own sort of thought of, I'm going to really try hard to, turn myself around the way I was living in that. And it just got worse. I got as loose as it was. I just couldn't change. I was about 23 years old. And yeah, that's where I found myself one morning. It's basically, things aren't changing here. I'm going to give what Jason said a crack.
Mm. So you were disciplined, like physically, right? You were elite in that way, but you're saying you couldn't change yourself when it came to your character and who you were becoming. You needed Jesus to do that. You couldn't do it through just your own self-will.
There was probably another way of saying it too. Is it's like I could see a peace in Jason that I didn't have, and at church I'd see Christian people. Like I said, they're nice people. They had a peace that I didn't have, and um, there was an emptiness. That's what I had instead of peace. Like I said, there was constantly trying to almost sugar hit. I've got all this stuff. I just want more stuff. It makes me, and it didn't fulfill me. And so yeah, that's the space I got to. Like you said, yeah, highly disciplined guy. I was machine-like with my footy. My story isn't, I became a Christian, then I had my best year playing footy and my loosest year. So that's not the story. I played good footy as a guy who didn't have faith in the Lord, but it was all about me and whatever. And then, but it was, I continued to play good footy after becoming a Christian. But I had fulfillment and real purpose, and it was, I had peace in my heart,
Mm.
and I think it made me a better footballer as far as caring about what the Lord thought, but caring about my teammates and even my opposition, even though I play a physical game, So, but yeah,
In a funny way, caring for them by smashing them. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's funny you say that. When you were the loosest, you also had your best year, and it makes me think that it's possible to succeed in life in heaps of ways, but at the same time to destroy your own soul and to become someone that you don't want to be. You can still be successful, but I guess for you, if you kept going down that path, do you wonder, would you be the husband you are today? Would you be the father you are today? Would you have become a leader as you did without that transformation?
it just would have been different. The leadership would have been self. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Others second, God not even thought about. My marriage. At that time I couldn't imagine being married because at the end of the day, that wouldn't have gone well
Mm.
because I wasn't going to be a faithful guy.
Mm.
Didn't know how to be. Do you know what I mean? It would have been, who knows, could have had a lot of success. But there's that quote in the Bible, I don't remember that, pretty much you said it just before, what good is it to gain the whole world to lose your soul, So the whole world's achieving, sometimes, might be thought, I become a Christian, now everything's rosy and good. I'm never going to be sick or, you know, every go my way. God says in the Bible, often we actually go through trial to it. God refines us. Sort of like a preseason. If you think about a footy preseason, you take your team to dark places, work hard. It's a team over the individual ethos, focus, and it's hard work and you go, you're working on your skills and your fitness, all this sort of stuff. You're refining that team, you bring it together so you can, be at your best and take that season and go all the way. In a way, um, that can be a walk with the Lord because you don't get character by just easy life. You don't get resilience, or perseverance. You don't get courage from never having to, you know, show some courage. So
Mm.
you don't get humble from just everything going your way, you know. Um, so yeah, it's not just like, hey, I become a Christian and now everything's rosy and I turn out I'm smiling and happy all the time. And to me that's fluff. It's a walk with the Lord, and the cool thing is um, we're not just by chance. We are created. It says we're created in His image. Absolute honor. Created in His image for good works, for His purpose. We have purpose. So it's not just chance and, it doesn't mean anything. We're just another. He says, set you aside from the beast of hell, all this sort of stuff. We're made in His image. We have purpose. Our purpose, summarized best, is that to have a relationship with the Lord, to love Him with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind. Because guess what? He loves us like that. He showed that through His Son. And going to the cross to pay for our sin, and to love each other, to care about each other. And that was the big thing that changed for me when I went that morning. I got up and I said that prayer, where I did what Jason said. I got down on my knees and I said, Lord, I just said, Jesus, if you're there, I don't know if you're there or not, but if you're there, please come into it. Please forgive me for my sins, the things I've done wrong. Some bad, some not so bad. Please take these sins from me. Please forgive me. And with my life, here's the keys. You drive now. Please come into my life. I surrender my life to you. And yeah, then I got up and got on with my day, and thought I'd keep that to myself, but I noticed something had changed inside, and there was a couple of rough months there where it was like old habit. There was a
Yeah, I was
feel
going to
like
ask you on that. Like, you're surrounded by all the boys, and you're playing for the Broncos. Like, I think many guys could relate. Part of it is you just want to be one of the boys because you like your brothers. You're around, and there's a real thick culture of doing things a certain way. I know even for me, not that I ever played, that sort of level or intensity, but just being around the guys, the camaraderie, and doing what the guys do. How was it then saying, "Oh, I don't want to do this anymore"? How hard was that?
there's a couple of months where it was a battle because it's like it's like a old me versus something had changed, and um, and I got to a space where I talked to someone around um, about that I become a Christian, and so like publicly talked about it to someone, and from that time I just felt peace, and that was huge. What I was leading up to before was, I've been all about me. Other people been not thought about much, and God not at all, and that flipped on its head. It just went like that. When I started to really care about the Lord and my relationship with Him, what He wants in my life, what Christ had done for me, the understanding what the hope through resurrection. Um, I started to care a lot more about people, and genuinely, not just
Get something.
actual. Yeah, what can I get out of it? What's in it for me? It was actual caring about people, how they're going, how um, relating with people, and then there was me, and I was still cocky and confident sort of dude, but that's been a work in progress, over the last 30 years, and that was the change. When I had that chat with that person, I said, I talked about my faith to someone around the club. But one thing that was really nice that was big was just, I was a womanizer and boozer and stuff, and mornings and nights, that was on my mind. You know, um, you'd say lust, lustful sort of thinking. I had, I remember going to bed a night, and there was just nothing. Was thinking nothing around that. I've been thinking around, the next morning, nothing, and then the next week, and then the next month. And I know that probably won't sound like much. I don't know if I'm describing it well enough, but uh, when you just as a consumer,
Mm.
with everything and
Just
women and
dominates
everything.
you. Every
Yeah,
man knows what you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
There's the
and
when you talk about lust, I mean, you think about in all history, the strongest of men, and you are one of the strongest of men in rugby. Lust has been their downfall. From
yeah,
Samson to David,
yeah,
not necessarily strong but successful, to Bill Gates.
yeah. But that was a huge thing because that'd been always on my mind through the years, and now there's just peace sort of in my mind. It was awesome, and probably another thing was just reading the Bible. I always found it hard work if I looked at the Bible and that. I couldn't put it down. That was crazy. People were listening. Oh, you enjoyed reading the Bible. Like it was like I was just loving it. Everything I love was in there. Um, you know, around who Jesus. I read the four Gospels. I started with Mark because I had a Christian friend. He said, "I'll start." That's probably the
The
uh,
shortest.
shortest one. And Jesus Christ was everything that I loved. You know, around humility, wisdom, courage, sacrifice,
Mm,
discipline, every single thing, love, caring, um, everything that I loved. That was his nature, was God's nature. And it was
mm.
just so cool, that opening of my eyes. And yeah, just thinking, because when we played footy and that, Wayne would coach, it felt like he was stealing from the Bible. He'd coach you around camaraderie, playing for each other, caring about your mate, discipline, perseverance, wisdom, all these sort of things. Well, 2,000 years ago, that wasn't just in the 90s with the Broncos. That was not actually talked about. That was lived in the
Yeah, that
body
was embodied by the
of
man
Christ.
himself.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's cool.
About a year ago now, I quit my 9 to 5 job to pursue doing this more permanently. And I just want to give a shout out to those who are giving monthly to make this possible as a ministry. You know who you are. Thank you so much. Thank you for your prayers. And let's get back to the video. Something that I love about your story, because I can resonate with it, is you talk about how your grandfather was actually an alcoholic, and that was really hard for your dad. And, your dad obviously seemed to take a different path, which is quite powerful. And it sounds like his faith was a big part of that. But for you, there was a time where you felt like you needed to give up alcohol. And I've actually myself given up alcohol for several years, because it's been in my family too, through my father and others. And I had this thought one day of embarrassing my family at a barbecue by having one too many to drink. And I didn't have a family at the time. I do now. And that was enough for me just to say, I just don't want that. I just don't want that for my family. It's too much of a risk. And it was me being honest about the fact that I have a weakness here. Like I'm prone to this path, And so just tell me about your decision to quit alcohol, and maybe there might be others at the moment who are going, well, I do want to live a different way, but when you say giving up alcohol, you're no longer one of the boys. If you go to the pub and everyone's grabbing a beer and you're there grabbing a Coke, it's sort of a bit of a downer on everyone. How did you deal with that, and why did you give up alcohol?
Well, I became a Christian, and I think the Lord just started to help me get the basic things in my life in order, my house in order, basically. And took me 3 years for becoming a Christian until I gave up completely. And that was because I just needed to. I needed to go. I felt the Lord said, walk away,
Mm.
walk away. And I drink in moderation now. I
Mm.
have done since I was
Yeah, it's not a
31.
sin to drink, but
But
yeah.
I had a 6-year break, which was awesome, really good. The problem I had was I did start to drink a lot less when I became a Christian. What that each year, um, uh, of those 3 years, by the third year, I was drinking not much at all. Do you know what I mean? Sort of like petered off. But what that meant was because I wasn't drinking too much, I didn't have my like drinking fitness sort of thing. So what it could mean
Right.
is if I got in a familiar environment and I was feeling the vibe in the years gone by, I'm drinking every weekend and stuff, but now I'm not drinking as much, doing the right thing. But now I can get real, uh, like hammered because I can't handle it as normal. Do you know what I mean? Do you
Mm.
understand that? Which, um, you get to that space, uh, a lot of stuff doesn't go so well, does it? So, um,
To say the least. Yeah,
and
I mean, the biggest thing is you do things that you ultimately don't want to do, and it weakens your ability to say no and do things that you regret, you know? It's such a strong culture though, where honestly it feels like you're betraying people at the times by not drinking.
yeah, the funny thing is with everyone, everyone's having a drink. They always have to have you drink as well.
Mm.
It's a funny old thing that, but uh, you know, I met my wife a year after I became a Christian. We're just friends for a couple of years, but there was something at stake there, and I'd moved to take on my rugby union challenge. So she was in Brisbane. We'd only just started dating a couple of months, when I was boozing and that stuff just meant women to me.
Yeah, it's yeah.
That's what it meant.
Yeah.
So you can see the danger, can't you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So God's timing, He brought my wife along. If I'd met her years before, I would have ruined it.
Mm.
It would have been God's timing.
Mm.
She came along, we were friends for a couple of years, and then um, we started dating. I was in New Zealand, and I went out just innocently with my mates for my birthday. Some of the guys there, they weren't my mates yet or anything, and there I am, 3 in the morning. Everyone else is gone, and I'm gassed, and I didn't do anything
Mm.
wrong by my girlfriend or whatever. But the next day, I remember just for about a week, I just felt like crap around it all, and
You know it's
uh,
closer than it should be.
and I actually thought about it. I told you the pictures that I see in my head. For me, I saw it like like you saw before, the scales. So the scales were you have great times on the beers with the boys. I acknowledge it. Yeah. What about when I was thinking about giving up? What about the good times with the guys on the beers? But then on the other scale was what was at risk, what was at stake, what the times were on it. Like every time I wake up for 5 years saying, why do I do this?
Mm.
And I've done another regretful thing or whatever. And those scales were like that, you know. And I went, and I just went, okay, Lord. So probably the key thing was I said, Lord, give me the strength to walk away from this. I didn't do it in my own strength. I was asked the Lord, help me not to stop now, not to go back to this. And
Mm.
the people around me, I remember telling my mother, and she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure." And I said to her, "I'm telling you, I'm actually looking forward to 6 weeks, 6 months from now, because I'm telling you, this is happening." And yeah. like I said, 6 years went by, and it was so important for me, just in life in general, with my relationships under God, and just not being a slave to stuff.
Yeah,
You
that's the
know,
big one, isn't it?
yeah, being free
Mm.
to that is not good in my life. I'm not handling that well. Boom, move it to the
Mm.
side.
Yeah, to be a man is to not be mastered and enslaved. Like that's what I think. To be a man is to be able to say no, and it's tough. I mean, what would you say to someone who says they have this kind of desire, they want to pave a different path for their future family, but as soon as they get around the guys, it just goes out the window. What would your advice be to someone like that?
Yeah, well, I guess they'll have experiences. I'd say, how have you felt after each other time? You know, so yeah, it's each person needs to get to a space. Like for me, am I honoring the Lord by getting blind drunk? You know, that night I had bouncers and they had lasers on me. Basically, they had these lasers, and I was thinking, what are they carrying on about? Not that, and I wasn't allowed to drink anymore at the bar. I could have water. It's like 4 in the morning.
Wow.
Next morning, I wake up, I look at my shirt, and it's just like basically just um, a mess of just alcohol and stuff on me. Must be dribbling away. In my family, my grandfather alcoholic, my father through that tough. Unfortunately, that brought them to they were my dad grew up in state housing.
Mm.
Bread and drippings sometimes is dinner. That's basically bread with lard, fat smeared
Oh,
on it.
wow.
Didn't have a great, strong relationship with his father. It was a tough one.
Mm.
And so he was a guy in moderation, and then there's me, and I'm with the space that I'm at. I said I had that little battle after becoming a Christian for a couple of months. There was like an old me, new me type sort of battle going on there, and God was at work in my life. I'd asked Jesus into my life.
That's right.
So it wasn't just me going, oh, I need to follow these rules because blah, blah, blah. No, inside me, it changed.
But
And
I think a lot of guys, when you talk about giving up alcohol or stop sleeping around with women or stop doing this, it's like, man, the rules, the rules, the rules. It just seems so boring and also like tiring and impossible.
yeah,
Mm.
well, I'll tell you what, after that 6 years, I felt like I could try a social beer, and I've had that ever since. And I enjoy alcohol for what it is, the flavors. I enjoy spice rum and you know ginger beer, or I like different things. Now I enjoy it as it's meant to be, not um. Do you know what I mean? So, like I said, I guess each person under God, they're going to get to their own space, their own, where they stand with things. But like I said, I got to a place where, uh, like I said, there was an emptiness, and um, and there was a sadness around some of the stuff that comes out of all that. So, you got the last of the boys and all that sort of stuff. I get all that, but for me, I needed to walk away. Um, the funny thing was, I'd still go and hang out with the guys. And what probably annoyed me when I went out was I thought everyone else was just blind drunk like me. And then I went out sober, and there was, you get the guys that are, but, I just thought everyone was in the same space. There's a bit of, and then, uh, early on when I'd hang out with people, I was sort of like, oh, a hand where I want to be drinking something. But then over time, I actually had a really great time if I went somewhere or whatever, because I was
Mm.
in my right mind. I knew the decision I made. I was never crook again, and my footy thrived. And I was I wasn't doing a whole heap of regretful things. And
Mm,
it meant that for the first time, I could actually imagine being committed to a woman. You know,
mm.
um, you know, know that know everything that I was doing, and
I want to take you back to a moment. I love this part of the story, and you share it a lot. But something you said about your dad was that he was someone that was really good at instilling vision into you. He had vision for things, and it was, you can make it to this, the Broncos, but you can play for Queensland, you can play for Australia, you can play for the All Blacks. Like, he had that ability to instill a seeds of vision inside of you. Um, what did that do for you? And has that something that you've carried your whole life around having a vision for your life?
dreaming big. Yeah. Who knows what God has in front of you, what He puts in front of you. So um, anything, anything can be how to create. You obviously got short term goals, long term goals. Obviously, something I'm not going to try and be, win the 100-meter sprint at the Olympics. But the gifts that I've been given, God given talent that I've been given, he was like, I'd be stuck in a square, be free, your mindset past. Just sometimes we can contain ourselves. So just that freedom to have a red hot crack and like I said, you know, having those, it's not just fairyland. I'm going to be an ice skater at the Olympics sort of thing. It's the gifts that you have, passion, things that um, drawn to or whatever. And, let's see how great we can be with those things. And uh, it's a cool thing, Often if you want to get somewhere, you go to the destination, and that might be professional football, or might be trying to win a World Cup or trying to achieve things. You go there and then come back from there. What will have to be in place for me to get there?
So you sort of reverse engineer from the goal.
Well, if you think about it, if you get on a boat at sea, a sailing ship, and you're just kicking off with you sort of know you sort of want to go somewhere. You want to go somewhere, but you're just off drifting all over the shop. But if you got that strong destination and you come back, well, I need to get to there. I'm going to need, that achievement. I'm going to need to have done these things right back to where you're starting your first step or your first sets are. So I think that's a good way of looking at things. Um, Visualizing something I used to do a lot. Didn't really realize I was doing it, but it's down the side of the house on a weekend with my dog. And I've always been a deep thinker, and I like time on my own. And I'd just be dreaming and thinking things and putting things in place to. This is a 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old.
Yeah.
I want to do
It's like
this,
almost
this.
destined in a way. Well, I guess you hear those sort of ideas around self-fulfilling prophecies and things, but it's clearly believing and having a vision for your life and then, living it out. Like, what did you actually imagine yourself in those moments, like making the Broncos or winning the World Cup, or is that what you mean?
Yeah. Like an example, when I first, um, I was like a lazy kid with talent. I was like 6 foot at 13. I, you know,
6 foot 13.
yeah, I could like dunk at 14. I was fast. I'd go do the school athletics day, win everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
One of those guys at that
yeah.
younger age. And yeah, it was getting to a stage I was about 16, but I didn't have the belief and the work ethic and stuff. So when I go so far, I might make, I might go initial rep teams, but I'm not making the state team and stuff, you know. And it's because I'll pull back, or I just didn't have the belief because I hadn't worked,
So you
you
struggle
know.
with self-doubt then?
Yeah, I just would pull back and just didn't have it in me. And my dad got to a point where he had a bit of a hard word with me. I hadn't fronted. He'd driven a long way to some trial thing that I'd gone to. Probably just lying in the sand time and had enough of talking about it. And motivated guy. He's an achiever and had his own business. I told you about his upbringing. So,
Mm.
and he wanted his sons to achieve. And we had a state forest near our house. My dad used to, he passed away when he was 46 when I was 19, but he would keep fit, exercise, just because that's the sort of guy he was. He had a run that he did, and he said, I want you to do this run. And I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, you're doing this run. Or I'm not taking you anymore. I've had enough. And yeah, he's not, and Dad's not a muck arounder either. He's not, he's not, he's not just saying that. I'm not taking a train or nothing. Basically, the run was sprint hills, is a hilly sort of run, sprint the hills, jog anything flat or downhill. So it's like fart leg running. Learn to recover on the run. Don't just stop after a run, a hill sprint thing. So yeah, I went and did that. It was a game changer.
Mm.
I think. I really believe the Lord. There's a moment in that first run where I just stopped and just felt hairs the back of my neck stood up and just felt like awesome. I remember saying out loud, "This feels good." I just
And
felt
you were doing that run, weren't you? Like while you still were playing for the Broncos.
Mm.
So you'd go. Was it that you'd go in the morning, do your training, have lunch, do the run, then go back for fitness at the Broncos, and no one knew.
They wouldn't even know about it. Yeah, and I'd be at the back end of the fitness group because I was knackered.
Yeah,
But
no one wants to be at the back.
But you got to understand, mate. I was 19 playing with, they were not back-to-back premiers, 92, 93. Glenn Lazarus, all these. I don't know if you remember these names now and can get Trevor Gilmore. All these. It wasn't Trevor, but all these guys. And I was this fresh-faced 19-year-old. I need to be fitter, but more so mentally just tougher to handle it. I'm playing against men in the NRL, Marathon Stadium, Chief, Harrigan, all these guys.
And then
Mark
it's a
Carroll.
different game back then. Like you're
It's a
getting knocked
tough game.
around big
Tough
time.
game.
There's no head highs. There's no you sending off high tackles. It's just all free for all.
Yeah, yeah. And I needed to be able to handle that, and it was just initiative. I'd changed a lot. I told you I was a kid with talent, but I didn't have that resolve. I didn't, and the forest run changed me where my mindset flipped, and I was just became machine-like in my mentality, and I would do whatever it took. I'd train, whatever. That's what helped me, I guess, thrive from such a young age. As a 19-year-old guy. So, yeah.
What would you say to someone who's listening to that and they're thinking, because I said this to my mum when I was in my early 20s, I remember saying to her, I'm just so sick of being inconsistent. The only consistent thing in my life is I brush my teeth every day. What would you say to someone who's in that place where they're going, I have vision, I have some goals, but I just don't have the discipline. And what would be the first way for them to start? How can they have that forest moment?
Well, I think the cool thing with me is because I think people would have seen me in my 22-year playing career. No one would, I imagine, expect that I was when I say I was a lazy kid, I had my under-14s coach who said, I've been at this, it was a junior club, North Aspley. He said, I've been coaching at this junior club for 15 years. You're the laziest kid I've seen in 15 years.
Wow. So you're not just joking when you say you were lazy.
Yeah, I'm not saying, Brad was,
Wow.
I was like, no. I was lazy, around that stuff. I was just talent. I was talented. Like I made state AFL primary schools, played with Michael Voss, different guys. I was talented. Like I said, I won the athletics day. I dunk at 14. All that sort of stuff, but I didn't have the work ethic. The belief is the big one that you get from all that, discipline and work ethic, whatever. So I'd say to that person, I'd tell them that you can do this because I'm the laziest kid in 15 years. Do you know what I mean? Do you
Mm.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's possible. Like if you can go from
Yeah.
being the laziest to being known as, and one thing that you are known for is consistent discipline, played for 22 years, didn't get injured, like grind. Like anytime I say to someone, yeah, Brad Thorn, they go, oh, that guy just physically just puts it in, you know? And it's just saying that you were the lazy kid.
Isn't it crazy? So
It's great.
that's hope, and that was a big part about my book. You know, I was in an environment where I'm out in front of the cameras, and yet I had anxiety. You know, I went from league to union. Guess what? It was incredibly hard. I didn't just go, I get and do speaking, and I get introduced. Brad went from league to union, back to league, back to union again. I'll tell you what. And I stand there thinking, you guys don't realize what that took. That was hard, you know. So there's a lot of things in the book that contrast. You know, you can change that. I had a dad who cared enough, loved me enough
Mm,
to step up to the plate. That's probably another thing is having that role model.
mm,
Um, for me, I'm massive, on family and people and stuff, but especially for me, the father, the role of the father. In the Bible, it says he's the steward of the family. Um, God is our heavenly Father, but the role is an important one. He shows his sons what it is to be a man,
mm,
hopefully a man under God. Um, the kick up the backside when it's needed and a hug, as well, and a laugh. He shows his daughters this is what you're looking for in a man, and to be respected and cared for. The way the father treats the mother, the wife, whatever. So if you want to destroy the family, you take out the father first. That's it's. I was so fortunate to have the dad that I had. I know there'll be people listening to this that haven't had that. The cool thing for me was having had my dad. But my dad, two things to say that. My dad had a father who was an alcoholic, state housing, whatever. And he came through, you know,
he turned
he,
it around and he provided
he,
that for you, what he didn't have.
everything he didn't have, he poured into us. That's
Mm,
how he went. So you can come through that. And he thanked God. He told me he wasn't used to talking much about faith or God. But one time I heard him say, um, he said, um, God was at work there. And
mm,
then you had me and my brother who had a strong mum and, father and mother, and we're so fortunate. The second thing I'd say is God is our father. You we have our dads and our mums and dads are fathers, but he is our creator. He's our Lord and
mm,
Savior. He's our father, and there's no greater love. There's no
mm,
greater love, and it's seen through giving his son, Christ, to take, to pay for our sin.
mm. So
So
that
yeah,
we can be sons as well, like knowing our identity, like knowing that we matter, and yeah, we can be firm in who we are. That's a big part of my story. And my dad, I love my dad. I've forgiven my dad, but I didn't have that. Although my dad, he loved getting involved in my sport, but he didn't have, and he didn't have a father himself, so it can carry on. But God is faithful; He can change things, and He can be that father. Just on that identity piece, I messaged you just I don't know 2 months ago about a friend of mine, and uh, his name's Josiah, and he had a mountain bike accident, and he ended up in ICU, and we weren't sure he was going to survive. Honestly, he's got a little boy on the way in August, and he's actually now walking and
oh,
talking and
that's awesome to
singing,
hear.
and he's out of hospital. And I'm actually catching up with him today for a coffee. We're going to hang out together. And he's a Broncos fan. He's an All Blacks fan. In fact, when I saw him at church the day before the accident, he was wearing an All Blacks shirt. And I
Oh, wow.
messaged him that afternoon and I said, hey, mate, I'll be having Brad on soon. What's a question that you have? I'd like to ask it for you. I didn't know that the next day he would have that critical incident.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And so I wanted to ask it on his behalf and even just dedicate this episode to him because he's a man of God. He's becoming a father in August and he's still got a journey ahead of him that's going to require a lot of strength and discipline to rebuild. But he asked a brilliant question, which I expected he would. He said this: in a career where success can easily shape your identity, how did you keep your foundation in your faith rather than in your achievements and sporting career?
It's a good question. And I think that's been to a relationship with the Lord. And I would like to think I'm a bit more mature now in my faith than I was when I first, asked the Lord into my life. You know what I mean? So that battle of ego and all that sort of stuff around what you've achieved and all that sort of stuff. We're a cocky lot, the Thorns, we've got Scottish roots,
Scottish, me too.
yeah, feisty, cocky, whatever. But over time, key is spending time. A relationship isn't, here's the deal. Relationship is, I'm in trouble. God, please help me. That's not a relationship, is it?
Mm.
The relationship is spending time with the Lord, and that's through His Word, the Bible. And that's through prayer. You can get down and on your knees and pray. I do that often, but you could pray walking around a park, whatever. It can be it's talking to God. So, yeah, that's over the years through the Lord's Word, the Bible, learning about Him, learning about just everything that's in the Bible, and in prayer, you grow in a relationship with the Lord. And for me, the habit that I have, and that keeps things in perspective, that goes from me being proud about stuff to me being grateful. I've been asked that, oh, you're proud about doing all this stuff. It's like, I'm grateful God put these things in front of me. And if I'm going to boast, it says in the Bible, if you're going to boast, boast in the Lord and what He's done, because it's in His strength that I've been doing things.
Mm.
And different to up until I became, when I did lack fulfillment, I feel fulfillment. I had peace. I had purpose. Was still achieving, but either side of being a Christian, not a Christian. But all of a sudden, color came in. Do you know what I mean? Like from black and white.
Mm.
Yeah. So over all these years, through reading God's word, and I know that my identity is in Him. But basically, my life is a thank you, Lord, for loving me, for creating me, for the purpose You've given me, for giving Your Son to pay our debt, and for the hope You've given us through Your resurrection, hope from after this life,
Mm.
and help me to maximize the purpose that You have for me, and submitting my life to it. So I reckon that's a good way of keeping things in perspective. You know what I mean? When you think of things like that, there is no boasting. There is no, you know, stuff around that. There's gratitude. There's reverence. There's just basically loving God back. He
Mm.
loves us. And loving the walk that you have with Him, and trusting Him, and going about what we do.
Yep. If someone's never read the Bible before or this is all very foreign to them, but they're sort of open. What would you encourage them to do? How would you encourage them to start?
I'd do very similar to what I did. I just thought the full God, because the Bible is this holy book. What, like if you read it from the beginning, we have the Old Testament, you have the New Testament, and it's from creation, right through to the early church. But when I said that prayer, I just asked Jesus, if you're there. I don't know if you're there or not. Please come in. I thought, I've just asked him into my life. I knew stuff. I've been at church, I listened, but I need to learn about him. Go over this. And I told you I read the 4 Gospels. I started with Mark. That would be a good place to start to me. And the 4 Gospels, just for someone who doesn't know, that sounds like a religious word as well. It's basically 4 people that knew Jesus, and they're just giving their take on him and right up to his death.
So pray and read the 4 Gospels.
So when you have those 4 guys, when you got those 4 guys, they're going to see different things. It's going to be the same story, but it's like, imagine 4 of your mates. Oh, Thorny's, he loves a laugh. Another one might be, oh, Thorny's dedicated around his gym, whatever. Another one might be, oh, Thorny's a family man. So from those 4 books, you get a really good, who is this Jesus that they talk about? Who is he? And I think, that is a great place to start.
Awesome. Well, one last thing. I was on a flight to Brisbane, would have been a couple of years ago now, and Mal Meninga was on there. And I was born in New South Wales. So the only reason why I've had you on is because you're a brother in Christ. Otherwise, this interview wouldn't have happened. But Mal Meninga was there, and I went up to him and I said, "Go New South Wales." And so, give me 1 sec, because we've got Origin coming up. Just got to do something really quick. I've got to take the opportunity.
Yeah, what the heck's going on here?
All right, that's better. So Brad Thorn.
New
South Wales.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thanks. Well, mate, we'll see. It was a tough year last year for the Mighty.
Mate, it's been a tough year my whole lifetime, but you've got to be loyal. You've got to stick to your guns. If you're born in New South Wales, that's how it is. You've got to stick to it.
I understand that, mate, and I'll just return that with Go the Maroons, mate. So we'll do our talking on the field.
Thanks so much, mate, for having this chat, and I hope that we've not talked a lot of footy, but my heart was that guys would understand that you can win the game, so to speak, in this world by the world's metrics, but that's not truly what winning the game is. Winning the game is coming to know your creator and coming to really win the game to become the man that God's called you to be, and to have that peace that you're talking about. And so thank you for your example and for sharing about your story. There's so much more we could have talked about footy-wise, but I hope that people are encouraged to hear about your character and your journey. And if people are watching and, they're searching, I want to give you an opportunity that, say that prayer like Brad said, and pick up the Bible. And there's more and more brothers, especially in the rugby world, as we were talking about, that are coming to faith, and it's changing their life. And just come as you are. You don't need to tidy yourself up. You don't need to be sort of a Ned Flanders Christianity. Like, I know you've said that to me before. Like, no, he created you. He wants you to come as you are. He'll speak to you and he'll change you. And so, I hope people have been encouraged by that. And thank you so much for your time, mate. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate you having me on, and really cool having a chat, mate.
Yeah. And God bless you and your family.
Yeah, same, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Take care.
Wise Fools is all about rejecting the foolishness of the world and instead embracing the path of fearing God, which is the beginning of wisdom. It's all about saying, no, we can live a different way. We don't have to live the way the world tells us. And so if you're a man and you're saying, man, I'm dissatisfied with the way I'm living or the way this world is going, and you want a community of brothers to connect with and to be a part of, then I encourage you to subscribe, because I'll have more conversations coming up with more guests like Brad who are wise fools. Thanks, guys. Put a comment down. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you on the next video.